A fully trained samurai draws a steel blade against an opponent wielding only a piece of wood. The challenger is a 12-year-old boy. The samurai expects a quick execution. Instead, the boy knocks the sword from his hands and beats the man's head into the dirt until he stops moving. There is no formal bow, no respect for the dead. This boy is Miyamoto Musashi. Born in 1584, his formative years align with a period where life is cheap and the only currency that matters is force. His mother died in childbirth. His father is a mystery. For an orphan in this environment, survival requires a complete detachment from empathy. To stay alive, he decides to become the most dangerous thing in the room. The closest thing he has to family is his stepfather, Munasai. Munasai is a highly skilled fencing master and a severely abusive parent. He uses his skill to beat Musashi relentlessly, until finally kicking the 6-year-old out of the house. Outside the home, the country is tearing itself apart. Japan is nearing the climax of the Sengoku Jidai, a century-long period of continuous civil war. The violence of Musashi's childhood is a mirror of the society surrounding him. He spends a brief period living with his uncle, a Buddhist monk who tries to teach him peace. Musashi ignores the lessons. Instead, he grows. By puberty, he reaches 6 feet tall, towering over nearly everyone in the country. Realizing his physical advantage, he abandons his uncle's temple, adopts the name Miyamoto Musashi, and begins wandering the roads alone. He is an outcast by choice, hunting for opponents and relying on raw survival instinct to win. By age 20, Musashi arrives in Kyoto. He immediately targets the Yoshioka clan, the most prestigious fencing academy in the capital, challenging their headmaster to a duel. Instead of matching their formal etiquette, Musashi changes his tactics. He intentionally arrives hours late to the agreed-upon location. The headmaster is left waiting, his frustration building into blind rage. When Musashi finally appears, the furious headmaster charges recklessly. Musashi effortlessly dodges the attack and breaks the man's shoulder with a wooden sword. The clan is humiliated. The headmaster's brother challenges Musashi to a second duel to restore their honor. Musashi kills him with a single strike to the head. Running out of options, the Yoshioka school appoints a 12-year-old boy as their new leader and issues a third challenge. This time, they send an armed mob with bows, spears, and swords to wait at the dueling grounds. Anticipating the trap, Musashi arrives early. He hides behind a tree until the mob gets into position, then leaps out, instantly killing the 12-year-old headmaster. The shock of the boy's death paralyzes the students, just long enough for Musashi to cut a path through the crowd and escape Kyoto. The dismantling of the Yoshioka clan redefined the mechanics of the duel. Musashi treated his opponent's emotional stability as a tactical vulnerability, realizing that a mind clouded by rage is as easy to strike as a throat left unguarded. Musashi spends the next decade walking the country, refining his techniques. He develops a unique fighting style using both the long and short swords simultaneously. He learns to instantly analyze an opponent's reach, their weapon type, and attack patterns, dispatching challengers with calculated efficiency. On April 13, 1612, he travels to an island to meet Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro is a massive warrior wielding an oversized odachi sword, who is widely considered the finest swordsman alive. Musashi knows the physical threat is severe, so he deploys his psychological tactics. He orders his oarsmen to row slowly, forcing Kojiro to wait for hours. En route, Musashi calmly carves a spare wooden boat oar into the shape of a sword. When Musashi steps onto the beach, Kojiro is livid. He draws his steel blade and tosses his scabbard away. Musashi positions himself so that the blazing light of the setting sun is directly behind his back, blinding his opponent. As Kojiro squints against the glare and unleashes a strike that narrowly slices off Musashi's headband, Musashi lunges forward. He brings the heavy, carved oar down on Kojiro's head, crushing his skull. This 61st victory, achieved with a piece of scrap wood against the finest blade in Japan, effectively ended his career as a duelist. He walked away from the island, having proven that no physical weapon could overcome a mind that had already solved the engagement. He is the greatest warrior in the land. Yet achieving this status brings him no satisfaction. Running a fencing school proves exhausting, and the life of a famous killer loses its appeal. The surrounding world is also shifting. The Warring States period is over. The nation is settling into an era of peace, and samurai are trading their live steel for wooden practice blades. The man who spent his youth beating challengers to death completely stops fighting. He dedicates the next 2 decades of his life to painting, poetry, and calligraphy. The precision he once used to dissect an opponent's posture is now focused on the exact pressure of an ink brush. He creates masterworks of birds and landscapes, demanding a serene discipline that stands in stark contrast to his violent history. Musashi recognizes the perfection he sought on the battlefield is no longer found in taking lives. He turns his intense focus toward observing the natural world and creating art. By the time he is 61 years old, the towering giant is physically broken. He suffers from debilitating nerve pain in his hands, and his breathing is failing due to terminal lung cancer. Sensing the end, he retreats from the comfort of his lord's estate and isolates himself inside the remote Reigondo cave. He chooses to face his death exactly as he lived his early life, completely alone. Inside this cave, he writes his final masterpiece, the Book of 5 Rings. It is a complete record of his tactical knowledge, structuring his philosophy into 5 distinct elements: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. The text suggests that the way of the warrior is not a specialized skill, but a universal perception. He connects the absolute focus required to survive a lethal strike with the clarity needed to capture the spirit of a bird in ink. He writes, "If you know the way broadly, you will see it in all things." On June 13, 1645, he bathes and dresses in his finest clothes. He pulls one knee to his chest in a seated posture, gripping his long sword and his cane. Looking out from the cave at the order of the world, he passes away quietly. Miyamoto Musashi survived an era of bloodshed by becoming an instrument of absolute violence. But his final years suggest that true mastery requires both the calculating precision of a warrior and the peaceful, boundless wisdom of a philosopher.